Well, I think we'll get started here. I think a few more people may trickle in, but we are recording this and I'm going to send out a recording to parents tomorrow. I'll start just by introducing myself. My name is Sebastian Ziz. I'm the principal of this fine establishment. Joining us tonight is also Ian Patrick, our librarian teacher librarian. And then Melanie Courtway is the Diversified Arts department head.
Hi.
And so she'll be talking about some of our electives a little later. Ian's going to be our moderator. As we're going through this evening, you may have questions and you don't get to speak right now because it's a webinar. I know that's one of the hard parts, but if you have questions, there should be a little Q&A button on your toolbar. You can just click on that. It'll send questions to the panelists. I actually won't be able to see those questions as I'm talking, but at the end, we'll have some Q&A and Mr. Patrick will go through and see what questions that seem like they're general questions. And then if there are any questions that are really individualized, we can you can go ahead and email those to me and I can connect with you that way. But really the point of tonight is to make sure that you have all the information that you need to help your students navigate registration. But even more than that, just to kind of give you a flavor of what Woodward's about and kind of help you think as you're preparing the rest of the school year and over the summer, what that transition to middle school will be like. So I'm just really excited. This is the last webinar we're going to do like this. Next fall, we will have a curriculum night, and I am fully expecting that that's going to be in person here at the school, and we'll invite you into school to come and tour around, and you'll get a chance to see. We are currently planning a tour for our incoming seventh graders this spring. And so we would be looking at a time, probably late May, June, somewhere in there, that we would invite the students to walk up here to Woodward and give them a tour and kind of help them start picturing themselves as middle school students. Yeah. Let's see. So I want to jump in starting with just talking about what all is going on with middle school kids. You probably have started to see already a change from your wonderful, innocent children who were in elementary school to, I know they're still wonderful and innocent, but they're changing, right? And one of the and that's one of the big things we're navigating here in middle school. That's one of the things I love about middle school. I've been in middle school now for 11 years as a principal, and I started out in high school. I have to say I love middle school and just how much change we see in the kids in just a couple years. This is literally the biological shift from childhood to adulthood is happening during middle school. Other than when you're a toddler, this is the most growth and change they go through as a human being. And we're all very aware of it as we have the kids here at school. But if this is your first adolescent going through your home, then maybe there's some nuggets of truth here for you. We all know that this is a time of huge human growth and development. We think of puberty, but it's just as much a time of neurological development. I won't geek out too much on brain research and like that, but like I said, their brains go through this explosion when they're toddlers, and then when they're adolescents, their brain starts pruning back parts of their brain that are unused, and along with a host of other changes, which, as we talk in a little bit, that pruning, the antidote to that is to continue to explore interests. And so, we'll get kids who, they liked drawing when they were a little kid, but I don't know if I like it now. And if they don't use it, it goes away. And so maybe taking an art class or something like that in middle school is going to be the kind of thing to help them keep that part of their brain alive. It's also a time when they're transitioning academically, socially, emotionally. The academic change is huge because we go from a Sakai structure to trying to get them ready for high school when they're going to have 6 classes in 6 different places choices and extracurricular activities and all of that. And so they're starting to learn how to navigate in middle school a host of different teachers. They're in classes with a whole bunch of different kids, and they get some unstructured time at lunch and passing periods. And so they're learning how to navigate all of that. And emotionally, they're becoming more self-aware of themselves related to others. And so there's a lot of, the research says that bullying peaks in these middle years. It tapers off when we get into high school, but really that's just developmentally them figuring out how they relate to each other and how to do that kindly. And so we help them with that. I guess I throw all this out there because they're so busy in like every realm of their growth. And I think it's something we're very aware of. We're thinking about the whole child, but I throw that out there for you to just have some compassion. We all were teenagers once. Whenever I ask adults, some will say like, oh, there were great years in my life. Middle school is cool. And you ask, would you go back to it? Oh, no, that was awkward duck time. I don't think I'd want to do that again. But so we need to kind of nurse our compassion for what they're going through, especially as they're changing how they relate with us. And kind of speaking about that, this is a time when we kind of have to change some of our tactics of parenting. Their relationship to us is changing. I've got now 2 coming on 3 teenagers myself, and I was doing this middle school principal thing for quite a while before I had my first teenager. And then I was like, oh, that's what I've been saying academically. I get it now in a different way in my home. And, what I would encourage you to think about, even this spring and into the summer is just think about those small shifts in responsibility that you can give to your student. And I don't just mean like chores, giving them more duties and tasks. What I mean is things that they can be responsible for. Maybe you're going to be wild and crazy and get them their own pet or something like that. But no, even just having something that they have some ownership for, and really nurturing that with them and growing that is really important at this time. It's a time to encourage self-advocacy and healthy risk-taking. I know that with my young kids, when they were in elementary school and they had a problem at school, I'd call up the teacher and I'd handle it. Well, as we go into middle school, we're trying to, they're not always going to be successful at these things, but we want to start with having them reach out to the teacher themselves so that they can start practicing that self-advocacy. I say healthy risk-taking, I don't know if you remember when you rode a bike or learned to drive a car or something like that. There are some freaky moments in there, and we're not always successful. Most people have crashed on a bike at one time as they were learning to ride, and those failures are important, and taking those risks is really important. And so middle school is a safe time to take a lot of those risks, and especially when we're talking academically. And so I just encourage you to think about how you can nurture that self-advocacy and risk-taking. Also, just part of recognizing that success and failure kind of dichotomy there is acknowledging their perseverance and resilience through it. Don't get too hooked up on whether they were successful or not, whether they got that grade that you were expecting. Think about, was this something that was challenging for them, and did they persevere through it? When they had a setback, were they resilient? It's their first time going through this. And so we have to sometimes call it out for them and say, that was awesome. I saw you try and keep trying, even though it didn't work. And then they go, oh yeah, you know what? I see what you're talking about. You might just get a grunt, but that's them starting to develop that self-awareness there of like, that's what's important. It's a time to emphasize that learning and improvement, and not just grades. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people say that grades in middle school don't count. They don't go on their transcripts for for college. They don't go on their they don't affect the rest of their lives necessarily. It's a safe time to build their learning habits. But it's a time for them to definitely be preparing academically for high school and building foundational knowledge. It's also a time for them to be, like I said, practicing different ways of studying, or how they want to be as a student, whether they're going to complete their work regularly and whether they're going to self-track their stuff. And so emphasizing that is really important, and not just focusing on those grades. One of the things that I noticed most as my kids got older is my perception of who they are was always lagging by a year or two, because I was averaging who they were over the time that I knew them. And I was always a little bit behind, and they're changing so much at this time that, there were things that I'd say, oh, they're okay, or it seems like they tell me they're fine. But one of the things that I think it really becomes an onus on us as parents, as they're teenagers, is they're not going to always tell us everything. And so really using their behavior as a guide. They might say, I'm fine, but your gut tells you their behavior says they're not. And that's a time to check in. It's a time for us to just stay connected and be present. And the temptation as they are growing and disconnecting as human beings is to give them space, but we have to do that in a careful way. And staying connected means getting past those first couple questions that we often ask at the dinner table of, what'd you do in school? Same. How did it go? Fine. And pushing past that to really start finding out what their life is like right now. And so I just encourage you to stay even more connected than you would have in elementary school. I say all this because I want you to kind of think about the fact that those same kids are coming to school, and how we approach them is, first of all, we operate as a team at Woodward. Kids will connect different with different adults. What works in one class might be different than another. Their interests might guide their success in a class or not. And so one of our antidotes to that is we talk together, and we are constantly talking as a team of teachers, and like with the counselors and myself, to really, what's working, what's not, comparing notes. That's how we stay, help them be successful in all their settings. One of the things that I also hear often is, well, they should have already known, right? They should have already known not to run in the halls, or they should have known not to use that language. But one of the things that we believe is that at this age, when they're experimenting with who they are, and some of them, expectations may be different here than at Sakai. So we believe in teaching them what we expect, and we're really explicit about that. And then we hold them to that. We're also really focused on that long game, right? We want them to be successful by the end of the semester. We know that grades are important for most of our kids, and we want to help them have success the way that they want. But we also are looking at, making sure that by the time that they leave here, they have the study skills, making sure that they're ready for high school. And so we're kind of always focusing on, maybe it didn't happen this semester the way they wanted, but how could we help them into the future? And so that's one of our focuses. We're also thinking about that growth mindset. One of my favorite words is yet, right? You think back to when you first, I'll have kids who say, well, I don't know how to drive. And I'm like, well, is that a permanent condition? They're going to learn to drive someday. In school we'll hear, well, I don't like math. I'm not a math person, or I'm not a science person, right? I don't like to write. And I just like to say yet. And one of the things I love about middle school is that they are so changeable at this age. What we see as, I'll get kids who start out in a math class, and 3 weeks later they went from I didn't like math to loving math, because they had to start having a great experience. And so there's changing so much that growth mindset is really huge. We value that whole child and the fact that they're developing into adults. And so we're looking at what their strengths are. We're looking at areas they can grow in. And we're constantly working just kind of with recognizing that the class that they might be in at this moment may not be their favorite, but it's an area they need to grow in. And so we're kind of constantly nurturing that. I share all of this because as we start thinking about what your job is of going, of picking classes with them. I mean, it's a pretty narrow assignment that they have coming home to them this week about picking a few classes. But really it's staging themselves for success in middle school. And so I share with you kind of our perspective. And then I want to give you some information about how you can find some details about Woodward. So we have a website that we've created for you. And let me show that to you. Mr. Patrick, did I get to the website all right?
You did. We can see it.
Okay, perfect. I can't. There we go. So if you scroll down on our website, down to the shortcuts on the side, you can see this incoming student information. We've created this website that both gives you a flavor for just who we are and what we're about. And I'd encourage you to review this with your student. We've got some haikus. It's loading kind of slow here, I think, because of the webinar, but it's got some facts about Woodward. But then this is what I really want to point your attention to. You can normally on an information night like this, I would have each of the departments say a little something about what they're doing. I'm going to just leave you to watch these on your own, but you can watch like what the language arts is going to look like in math. The most important, as Ms. Courtway will share in just a minute, are the videos for the electives, because that's really what they're going to be making decisions on. So if you clicked on that little link over there, you'll see a little description of each class, but you'll also get to be able to click on a video and see what is STEM video production like, and you'll hear from Mr. Harris exactly what that's like, and you've got all the electives here. So without and so then let me pop back to my other piece here. Just what the structure of our day looks like. Every student has 6 periods. So every student will have a year-long math class, a year-long science class, language arts, world history. Those are all year-long classes. Then every student takes a semester of PE with some health concepts in there. And then they have 3 choices here. These yellow boxes they get to fill. And if they take a year-long class, it's going to fill 2 of those. One point I'll make, I've had questions in the past, this graphic does not mean that every kid has math first period. It means that these are the 6 classes that they'll have throughout the day. They might have physical education here, might be second semester, right? But these are when we put them all together, this is what their year-long schedule will look like. So Ms. Courtway, do you want to take a few minutes and talk about what the electives look like?
Yeah, I'd love to. So you just got an introduction to the typical middle school student day, and your students will all be assigned to social studies, language arts, the appropriate math class, a science class, and PE. That's a given. And then it comes down to the electives, which is really fun and also a little bit overwhelming because we have so many options here at Woodward. So I'm Melanie Courtway. I'm the chair right now of the Diversified Arts Department, and that includes our foreign language division, our band and music program, our STEM engineering programs, our art classes, PE, and Culinary Foundation's consumer sciences and leadership that happen in my classroom. So you can see here on the slide, there are absolutely almost too many choices to choose from. And I want to start by saying there is no wrong choice. We have an incredible diversified arts department. We have incredible teachers in this department. So your student is going to enjoy whichever one of these electives they end up in. I say that to you as a current 8th grade parent and a former parent. I have an older son as well. All of these are wonderful. So Sebastian, Principal Ziz and I were talking, and he said, I really want to emphasize that we should let kids explore. And it's really true. There can be this tempting feeling to make sure our kids get into the right electives and chart the right course. And I personally want middle school to be a time of exploration where they get to try on different hats, things get more serious in high school, and they so deserve this moment to work on all that growth that Sebastian was talking about, all that maturing and development that's happening. While that's happening, we need to let them kind of flounder around and try out these different identities. So maybe your child has never tried art before, but they could end up really enjoying it, or digital photography. And maybe you have a child who doesn't think of themselves as a tech person, but they take pre-engineering and really love working with machines and working with tools. They may want to try foreign language in 8th grade. And if they're a band student, they might want to further that journey, or try out other music options. I'll speak as the culinary teacher, and I often get told I'm formally home economics, and there's more boys in my classes than girls every year. So we're really exploring different opportunities, and I hope you'll let your child guide these choices. And PE is a requirement for everyone. We have the best PE teachers on Bainbridge Island. Your child should absolutely take it, even if they don't think they're a PE person. And it's a little hard after 2 years of COVID to identify as somebody who is a PE person. They're going to love it. Miss Chemslin and Mr. Walker are really great. So please get excited with your kids. Let them pick what they want to take. Let them have fun. And we're here to have fun with them. Middle school is awkward enough. And so the electives are where you get to come kind of shake it off and have a good time. Yeah. Anything else, Sebastian, I'm forgetting?
No, I think you said it. Like I having come from the high school world, kids start to really specialize there, and they take everything in a department, right? They decide I'm going to be an artist. So they take every art class, but even if they know they're never going to be an artist, this is the perfect time to take art, because it might be their last experience getting some instruction in it, and that helps round them out as human. So it's
there's a great question in there, Sebastian. There's actually two questions. One of them is, are there prerequisites? And typically band kids come from the band program at Sakai. I can speak to all of you as a parent whose child didn't attend school on Bainbridge Island until 7th grade. So you can, if you feel like there's a musical inclination for your child, reach out to Paul Meehan, the band director and teacher. He's wonderful. And my son crashed into percussion in 8th grade, I think, almost end of 7th grade, and went on to do that in college. So, there's really no hard concrete limits that we're putting on kids. The elective options, someone asked, are the elective options the same in 8th grade as they are in 7th grade? And that is mostly true, except for in order to take foreign language in 8th grade, you would have needed to have taken it in 7th grade. It's broken down, Spanish and French 1A and then 1B for 8th grade. And I'm trying to think, the rest of them you could join in either way. Art and engineering classes, STEM classes, have mixed 7th and 8th grade classes. Culinary arts is broken into 7th grade groups and 8th grade groups based on sort of developmental readiness for those life skills. And so, the options are kind of endless. One person asked earlier, would taking track forego the PE requirement? And the answer is no. Everybody at Woodward needs to take PE. But again, PE is really fun. So I recommend it as one of the electives that your child takes. And we now have a health program as well embedded in the PE requirement. So it's really important for our children to do that.
One thing I'll throw in there about PE is while it's that semester is a requirement, some of your kids, have the serious case of the year-long wiggles. And so if they sign up for a second semester of PE, they won't get 2 in the same semester and end up having 2 periods a day that they're doing PE. We'll make sure that they get one semester and the other one the other.
You've got to go try art or something. Yeah, they got to try art or something for that second elective, but no, so they can't take 2 PE is the same semester. That's a good,
But they can take, if they want to take it again, they could do it the next semester. Yeah.
So PE can be like an elective, like the other electives. It could be a choice as well, if you want it in addition. And the place we get into an issue is if a child were taking band and a foreign language, or if they were an ASB representative in 8th grade and taking band or a foreign language and leadership, then we have to come up with some creative solutions around just elective spaces, but we try not to enter that realm. It's best for kids to explore and try on a lot of different hats. Someone wrote that they thought language was a requirement, and the answer is it is not a requirement in middle school. It's a wonderful opportunity, but it is not a requirement until it's actually something to explore in high school.
Most students take language in high school. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement to graduate. A foreign language is not. Yeah.
No, it is not. Yeah.
We do. I think you kind of covered it. I think there was a question in there about if someone takes foreign language that's year long and band that's year long.
Yeah.
We do have a scenario for those students where they can take an independent study PE that we supervise. It's a just for that group of students. So yeah, so I'm sure you may have more questions as we kind of go along. We'll have Mr. Patrick will monitor those as we go along here. I want to talk for a second about what the registration process looks like. Mr. Patrick, can you throw the spotlight back on me? Perfect. So let's see. Oops, there we so today or tomorrow, our counselors are going down to each 6th grade Sakai class, and they are giving the students registration forms. They're talking through what those choices mean, kind of talking about what our school program looks like. They're showing them where that website is that I showed you. And so your students either today or tomorrow are going to bring home a registration form for choosing their electives. Your job is to have a conversation with them about it and kind of ask some probing questions about why they want to take those classes. I think any reason is fine, but recognize that, you know, if their reason is, well, because my friend is taking that class, maybe push them a little bit on that. If they just say it sounds cool and I want to try it out, that's actually a really awesome answer. And so just have that conversation, then sign their form, and they're going to bring that back on Monday. It's a short turnaround because it's a pretty straightforward set of decisions. And so and then once they turn that form in next week, their teachers are going to teach the kids how to enter their choices into Skyward so that they will physically register online for themselves. We do this skill kind of in both ways. Once we have a hard copy so we can double check that they did it right and got the classes that they really actually wanted. The other piece is that that's going to be the way that they're going to register for classes for the rest of their school career here in Bainbridge. And so in high school, they use Skyward as well. So we're teaching them how to do that now. It's going to take us the rest of this school year and into the summer to really create a schedule that works for all students. And it's a huge puzzle to make a master schedule and get everybody loaded in there and everything. And so it'll be the end of August that we'll be able to give out class schedules to each student. I always err on the side of giving the right schedule than giving a schedule that's going to get changed and came early, right? There's nothing that breaks a kid's heart like giving them a schedule and then 2 weeks later saying, oh, oops, we changed it. So just know that we're going to do our best to get them that schedule that's stable and exactly what they're going to start the year with. So you are probably going to end up with some questions after this or after talking with your student. You can contact our registrar, Molly Weber. She's great for a lot of the logistical questions, questions about the form, questions about how you're registered for next year, things like that. If you have questions about specific classes or your individual student needs and how that kind of relates to classes that they're picking, or just getting ready for middle school for next year, if your student has learning needs you want us to know about or things like that, you can contact our counselor. Miss Beer will be the 7th grade counselor next year. And of course, you can always contact me. I can help get you in touch with the right people, or if you have other questions, I can certainly help you with that. So that's the end of my presentation part. I want to invite actually our PTO treasurer this year, who will be on the board again next year. Eve, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome. I wanted to give people a chance to hear from our PTO tonight, because I think our partnership with PTO is part of what makes Woodward so special. So maybe you could talk for a few minutes about what PTO does and how people can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the time too. As Sebastian said, my name is Eve Blakemore, and I am currently on the Woodward Parent-Teacher Organization, or PTO as we call it. And this time last year, I was sitting on a Zoom call very much like this, nervous. My daughter was at Sakai and going into Woodward, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But we had recently relocated to the island. And, when she was in elementary school, I had done a lot of volunteering at the school, mostly sort of at the classroom level. And so when I heard about PTO, I thought it might be a nice way to really get more engaged with the community and what was happening at Woodward. And it really has been. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of take a few minutes to share what the PTO is all about, but really to kind of plant the seed that if you're even at all interested, we would love to have you join us. And the commitment really isn't all that much, but essentially, when you think of the parent-teacher organization, it's a group of parents or people at the school, and really what we're here to do is help the school and the teachers and enhance the students' experience at Woodward. The goal is really to not only volunteer our time, but help do some fundraising. So for Woodward, there's one main fundraising event that happens in the fall that collects money that essentially helps fund a number of different activities throughout the year, not only for the students, but also the teachers. So it's, kind of a win-win on both sides. From a time perspective, we do have a monthly meeting. And then, kind of based on, what different activities are happening, there are some occasional, committee meetings, but overall the time commitment isn't too great. And what we really are hoping is that you'll take some time to think about, how you might want to get involved. So the positions, if you're looking at the slide here listed below: president, I'm currently treasurer. I'm also acting as grants coordinator. But we've got a secretary position open, a volunteer coordinator, and then there's this tremendous 8th grade banquet that happens every year. And we're looking for people to help with that. There's a website on this slide where you can click to learn more. But again, just want to welcome you to Woodward. It's been a wonderful experience, and being part of the PTO, I think, has made it that much better.
And I think PTO is going to be like 10 times more fun next year as we start adding even more volunteers and partnerships and activities back in. So I think it's going to be a hoot, and I really hope that we get some of you guys joining up and helping out.
Yeah, exactly. This past couple of years, I think, has been a little tough with the restrictions, but we're really hoping to bring a lot of fun back to campus.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eve, and I hope folks will get in touch if they have questions. One thing we're going to do is, I hope you didn't worry about scribbling notes down real quick. We're going to take a recording of this, and we're going to email it out to all of you guys at Sakai tomorrow. Ms. Corway, you're going to live forever in this video. And then if you have other questions, you can access the information in there. You can have our phone numbers. You can contact me and let me know how I can help you out. But we're so excited excited for you guys to come next year. I'm so like next year, the kids get to have a much more normal school year and we get to be a part of their getting back to that. So it's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty cool. So, all right, well, without further, oh, I see one question popped in there. So great question about like 504s and special education. The 504 plans are managed by our counselors, and we have special education case managers. There's a tongue twister, who are going to manage students with IEPs. And so if that's the case, then folks will be reaching out to you about that for updating those for next year. And all right, well, without further ado, I will sign off. I hope you have a great evening, and I wish you great conversations with your kids about getting ready for school. Take care.